morning and welcome to your breakfast show, The Morning Brief. We call it your perfect day starter. We're live for you here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. I'm Kayode Okikiolu. I know it's Tuesday. September is winding down pretty fast, and we're on to just the final 3 months of the year. Just in case you're wondering, come on, is it Kayode alone today? Where is Bukola? Well, she's right here. Not to worry. Bukola, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Kayode. Good morning.
Good morning. What a day it was yesterday.
It was Monday, right?
Yeah, it was Monday.
Yes, a day that is not just significant, but will also be significant, perhaps in the lives of Edo people for another 4 years, because their governor-elect is Monday. Opevolo. Their names are tricky, just like the English language.
You have to give
define
it the full
consonants,
value.
yeah.
You have to give it that full value. There you have it. But I know that there's been lots of reactions to that election and the outcome of it. The PDP candidate has come out to speak, basically thanking those who supported him and speaking his mind about the election. Clearly, the PDP is going to court on this one. But what we tried to also bring to the fore yesterday is the fact that there were other elections in other parts of the country, local government elections, and I want to say equally as important, really. There's a tendency to maybe put these different elections in categories. So, tier one or, grade one is the presidential and the ones for the national, then tier two is states, tier three is local government. But I think we should flip it. The most important that people should actually look forward to should be your local government or local council elections, as the case may be, because you're electing your chairman or chairman, the councillors as well. Those are the people closest to you. Someone made a joke recently, Bukola, that a lot of times people want to go out there to protest and they walk past their chairman's house to go and protest at the city square, when the solution to that problem is at the chairman's office. So people walk past the chairman's office or the local government office, go all the way to the city square to protest about an issue. That is just right there. It's not everything, of course, that the local government authorities do, but I'm just trying to say that these elections are equally as important. So we saw it play out in Enugu, Imo, Kwara. It was a bit contentious here and there, and that's why people need to pay attention to these things. I know some other states have elections coming up, so if you've not been paying attention, please, by all means, pay attention to your local elections.
Well, that's quite significant, Kadi, how people do not pay so much attention to the local government elections, but they are the most important, because your local government chairman is responsible for the provision of infrastructure, for street light, for markets, for stalls, every infrastructure that you can think of that is important, that is around your locality, even your primary health care. Your local government chairman is important to that provision. And we find that there was more attention paid on the Edo election than to the ongoing local government elections in the country at the moment. And we find that it's also curious that political parties are ramping up campaigns for the local government elections. Does this, or is it, as a matter of fact, as a result of the Supreme Court ruling on local government elections, because they know that funds will now be transferred directly to the accounts of the local government? That is the exact reason that we should turn our attention on local government elections at the moment. Look at the process, the candidates, who we should be voting for. And it's curious that in Imo State, INEC has declared the APC, the ruling party, winner of all 27 local government areas. Isn't this a democracy, government of the people, by the people, and for the people? And are the people queuing behind just one political party in this election? We should ask questions about that, because we have many political parties. Speaking of which, speaking of elections, let's look at Edo election, for instance. We may have turned the page on another off-cycle election and announced a winner, returned elected. But have we in fact turned the page on the issues since 1999? Some would even say even well before 1999. We're still talking about ballot box snatching. We're talking about compromise of election, electoral umpire officials. We're talking about intimidation of voters. We're still talking about vote buying. in 2024. The issues have not changed. And of course, it seems as if politicians are saying that snatch it, first of all, and then the others, the losers, can go to court and complain. These are very, very real issues that we should be thinking about. As a matter of fact, there are videos online about people complaining that votes were being counted in INEC office rather than the ward where votes should be counted. And of course, a certain political party candidate was there, and it is contrary to the Electoral Act. And INEC, in fact, acknowledged reports, it was posted on its Twitter handle, of intimidation of its officials and that it was going to investigate. But it went ahead and announced the results without, invoking sections of the Electoral Act that empowers it to reconsider itself before announcing results. These are real issues that we must take a second look at as we progress, or if indeed we want to progress in our electoral history. But as I said before, it will seem as if we have turned the page, but we're still writing in the same chapter. We have not opened that chapter of progress as far as electioneering is concerned. Kadi.
Well, INEC will tell you, we've made progress. Look at the IREV, look at the BVAS, and some other things. So it's quite interesting how progress is measured across board. Different people, different perspectives, but at least the people know what they want to see. But whether or not they are being a part of that actively, because the same people that are collecting the 5,000, 10,000 bread and what have you. So clearly we've not heard the last of this. I know very soon we'll be looking to defend substantial compliance yet again. But, well, they say INEC has 5 days to review that election result or not. If it's substantial enough, we'll see how that plays out. But for the APC, and this is a victory they're celebrating big time. So we'll see how that plays out. But what do we have on the show today?
Well, we're moving away from the Edo election, obviously, to looking at other issues at the moment. And we're starting with National Assembly, which would have a lot on its plate after 7 weeks of its annual recess. Both chambers of the National Assembly are set to resume legislative functions today. Now, before their recess, the lawmakers passed, among other bills, the minimum wage bill as amended. But there are fresh challenges bedeviling the National Assembly as it resumes. The pump price of petrol has been increased by more than 300%, a diminishing local currency against the naira, and of course, rising cost of commodities. So what would be their immediate task as they resume? We're going to be putting those questions through today.
I imagine that electoral reforms might also be on that and constitutional review, but don't worry. We'll review their work so far and what lies ahead. But that's not all. The other big topic for Nigerians is petrol. And after weeks of scarcity, Nigerians may have just settled into the new reality of buying petrol in the region of 1,000 naira per litre. But amid the disagreement between Dangote Refinery and NNPC Limited over pricing, what is the implication of this on supply and particularly the country's yearning to end petrol importation and have some energy security? Well, we'll hear from the marketers today about the game plan and what lies ahead.
And of course, later on the show, we'll have an up-close and personal chat with movie producer Ralph Nwadike. That's on a lighter note. Just to relax from all of the serious issues.
Oh, yes. So get ready to hear from the OGs. Jeff, that's Jeff's term, really, but it's infectious. So we get the OGs on the show, speak about the journey so far, what lies ahead. You can be a part of the show, by the way. That is a hashtag right there, CTV Morning Brief. That is a magic hashtag which you can be a part of the show. So let's hear from you. First, the Edo election. If there's still anything for you to speak to, absolutely let us know. The National Assembly, they're resuming today. So there's a lot of, attention being paid to them. What is your lawmaker doing? What have they done? Are you thinking about that recall clause that INEC put out? Well, let us know on the show this morning. It is a community show. INEC put
I laugh in French.
INEC put it out. It wasn't me. So let us know what you think. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief across social medias.
And after this time out, the show will continue with the top stories. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. And top on the brief this morning, evidently the ruling party is still basking in the euphoria of its victory at the just concluded governorship election, as its national chairman, Mr. Abdullahi Ganduje, has congratulated the party's candidate, Mr. Monday Okpebholo. Speaking in Abuja at the headquarters of the party in Abuja, while officially shutting down the party's situation room, Mr. Ganduje appreciates all members of the party and other stakeholders whom he believes contributed to the success of the party.
I would like to emulate what Akpabio has done in Akwa Ibom State. And so we receive a new transformation. And the grace of God, Edo is back again.
This is a turning point in the politics of Edo State. The will of God has been done today. I regard this day as a day of liberation.
Now, mixed reactions have continued to trail the declaration of Monday Okpebholo as winner of Saturday's Edo governorship election. While celebration continues in the camp of the All Progressives Congress, some other contestants in the race allege the outcome of the election would have been different if certain unlawful actions, including alleged vote buying, had not been introduced into the exercise. The candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the Labour Party, in separate interactions with journalists in Benin City, the Edo State capital, on Monday, shared their observations. The police, on their part, say they worked to ensure the election was violence-free. They also revealed they have made more arrests, recovered weapons and ammunition, and are continuing investigation into suspected violation of the law during the exercise.
I hold no sympathy for the PDP, who now cry foul after being outmaneuvered in this macabre Game of Thrones. They willingly participated in the bidding war with the APC, fully aware of the rules from the outset. Their lamentations ring hollow in the face of their own complicity in this democratic travesty. As for the APC and the governor-elect, their actions have undermined the democratic process, betrayed the trust of the very people they seek to lead, and eroded faith in our democratic institutions.
Together, we ran a great campaign, and the overwhelming support was evident in the ballots before our progress was unjustly halted on September 21st, 2024, by people who do not mean well for you or for our state. That day will forever be etched in our history as one of our darkest moments, marked by the brazen theft of our mandate and the shameful subversion of the will of the people.
And now more congratulations coming in for the APC. This time, the Federal Executive Council, chaired by President Bola Tinubu, congratulated the All Progressives Congress and its candidate on emerging victorious in the Edo State governorship election held on Saturday. Now, before the deliberation of the day, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, on behalf of the Council, commended President Tinubu for his commitment to the electoral process.
I want to use this opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to congratulate the people of the Edo States, particularly the APC family, properly guided the leader and father of the APC in their fantastic outing, recording a huge victory which had eluded the APC for over 8 years. The elections have been adjudged to be free and fair, and that is what Mr. President has always stood for. I want to thank you, Mr. President, for being committed to the electoral process and the ethos of democracy.
Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party and the Accord Party have joined the list of those condemning the outcome of the Edo State governorship election, which held on Saturday. They describe it as lacking in credibility. While the candidate of the Accord Party, Bright Enabulele, says the exercise was fraught with irregularities and malpractices, the acting national chairman of the PDP maintains that the results announced by the electoral umpire were manipulated. The PDP is also calling on INEC to revisit the results of the election. And in other election results, the Imo State Independent Electoral Commission, IMSEC, has declared the All Progressives Congress as winner of the 27 local government and 305 wards chairmanship and councillorship seats in the just concluded local government elections in the state. The chairman of the commission, Mr. Charles Ejiogu, who made this declaration at their headquarters in Owerri, the Imo State capital, said the election was conducted in line with the state electoral laws and guidelines, and the outcome was free, fair, and credible. And more stories now, this time away from election matters. The Federal Executive Council has approved the establishment of a disaster relief fund to enhance quick response to the victims of disasters across the country. The council gave the approval at its meeting chaired by President Bola Tinubu at the State House, Abuja. FEC also gave approval to an executive bill to be known as the Economic Stabilization Bill, which seeks to strengthen fiscal and monetary policies in the country. And following the devastating effect of the recent flooding in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, the federal government is reiterating its commitment to tackling all forms of natural disasters. The Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Utsev, made the commitment at an event to commemorate the 2024 World River Day in Abuja. The World River Day is a day set aside by the United Nations to draw attention to issues impacting the quality and flow of rivers. And still away from home now, Vice President Mr. Kashim Shettima has arrived in New York to represent Nigeria at the 79th United Nations General Assembly, UNGA. Vice President touched down at John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York, where he was received by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugar, Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Mr. Bosun Tijani, amongst others. As directed by President Tinubu, Vice President Shettima is leading Nigeria's delegation to this year's UNGA, where he will deliver Nigeria's national statement and participate in various high-level meetings. And outside our shores, it's a sad one, as Lebanon's Prime Minister says, well, Lebanon's Health Ministry, first of all, says at least 356 people have been killed and more than 1,200 wounded in Israel's airstrikes yesterday, the deadliest day of the Israel-Hezbollah conflict since 2006. Israel says it is broadening its strikes against Hezbollah as citizens in southern Lebanon have received phone messages warning them to leave places used by the Iran-backed group. Lebanon's Prime Minister says Israel's actions amount to a war of extermination, while Israel's Defense Minister says strikes will continue until we have achieved our goals to return the residents of the north safely to their homes. And fears of an all-out regional conflict in the Middle East have grown in the past week. Cross-border attacks have ratcheted up after a series of exploding device attacks on Hezbollah members, which were widely blamed on Israel. And in sports, Libya has opted to host Group D leaders, Super Eagles of Nigeria, at the Matters of Benina Stadium in their 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying match day 4 encounter on October the 15th. Known previously as Hugo Chavez Stadium, the stadium is a 10,000 capacity facility with an artificial turf. Both countries will do a match day 3 battle at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo on Friday, October the 11th, before the clash in the city at the edge of the Mediterranean Sea 4 days later. And that's it on the top stories for today. But what are your thoughts on the big issues of the day? Kadi joins me now for that review. Hello again, Kadi.
Well, Bukola, it's time to get on the very interesting streets of X. And quite a lot of things have been said about the Edo elections. But yesterday, the PDP put out a statement to the effect that they're going to court. The candidate also spoke about it. So what have Nigerians been saying about the PDP now? That's the national PDP rejecting the election results and heading to court. Ibrahim has the very first comment on this one, saying that the portal, that's IREF, and the BVAS ensured transparency. That's what this user says. So instead of rejecting the results, the PDP should respect the democratic process, allow INEC to complete its duties, and pursue legitimate channels for dispute resolution. So that's what this user says, and it's quite a lengthy one. But this user appears to be saying, well, let the process end. I think five days to go for INEC to do the review, then you can go to court. I just paraphrase what the user is saying that don't encourage inflammatory rhetoric and undermine democratic process.
Ibrahim, we hear you. Thank you for your comment. This one is from Shoba, who has just 2 lines. And Shoba says, this is expected and familiar, and the outcome is already staring us in the face, something like that.
And David Ofor is next, saying, assuming without conceding it was rigged. And what impact did you make to ensure that all pre-election accusations and palavers expressed by your party were resolved? So I don't know who this is targeted at. Is this targeted at INEC or targeted at the PDP national? Well, I don't know. It says, were you even on ground to support your candidate? So it looks like this is targeted
it's a tricky one.
At the national.
Is it targeted at the electorate? Were you even on ground to support your candidate?
Well, so this is a statement made by PDP national. So imagine he's speaking to the national PDP.
Oh, okay.
Goes on to say, Obaseki lost in his local government area. That should show you a lesson that the governor is not popular at all. Well, there you go. That is what this user has to say about this David Ofor.
If you went by the votes of the opposition, they had over 200,000 votes. So that speaks to some level of popularity. That's assuming that the election was free and fair. But if you consider that the Labour Party won the presidential election in 2023, and if that was an issue in this governorship election, why did the Labour Party perform so dismally, in this election? So that's a very critical issue to also consider. And if the people were even going to punish the ruling party, for whatever it is, the sins the All Progressives Congress is listing, would they reward the All Progressives Congress for the reforms that Nigerians have been complaining bitterly about? Why didn't they go the way of the Labour Party? So these are issues that we should also interrogate critically before reaching conclusions.
Elections are very, very interesting. And just to say, in case you're wondering, is this word palava, is it a real word? It's actually an English word, except that it ends with ER. It's not our term, it's actually real. Okay. So there you go, David Ofor with that one.
So we still have more reactions from on this particular matter. And this one is from My Abba, who says, in light of the recent turmoil within the official PDP Nigeria, it is unsurprising that such an outcome has come to pass. We should not express surprise at this turn of events.
So it's looking like the national leadership, or at least the national structure of the PDP, is getting some portion of the blame this morning. So we'll see how the coming days will play out, because again, you realize that the party is in a very tricky situation. But that's not all. Who else has been speaking about this? Well, let me see.
I guess we'll go to the next talking
Okay, let's
point.
go to the next one, because I know there's been a lot of conversation around it, but let's talk about the EFCC versus Yaya Bello matter. And we understand that, get this, the Kogi State House of Assembly is calling for the immediate removal of the chairman of the EFCC. Very interesting times we're in, and some things happen. You hear some things that you wonder, where did this come from? How is this happening? I mean, I thought we had a lot of challenges on our hands. So you wonder, when did the State Assembly start calling for the removal of the head of a federal agency? But hey, this is the polity. Life Issues has the first comment on this, saying that immunity in the working. Goes on to say that Yaya Bello planted protectors, according to this user, before he left office, and they are fully behind him. The last paragraph is right there, saying that if the present government does not report any corrupt case against the past government, does the EFCC have any right to probe its officials? That's a big question there.
You know what? Besides, it's actually allowed Bello make a caricature of the institution.
So clearly, yeah, this is a developing one. We'll see what the EFCC does about this. Looks like there's been some quiet, but we'll have to hold off at this point with your comments, but keep them coming in. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief. We're starting with that all-important conversation about the National Assembly, your representatives. And that will be in a few seconds, but you can be a part of the conversation, as I said, hashtag CTV Morning Brief. All of that talk about a recall of lawmakers, National Assembly resuming from its recess, the work they have done so far and how we rate them. All of these things, we're breaking it down very soon on the show.
So stay with us, we'll be right back.
You may not be interested in the business of lawmaking, but get this, lawmaking is interested in you. Why? Well, the laws that come out of that whole process definitely would affect you. And it's also assumed that you're part of that process through your representative. So the National Assembly has lots of functions. Lawmaking is one of them, oversight, budgeting process, and the rest. This morning, we're turning our attention to the National Assembly. They're resuming from that recess, right? So it's a given that we look at the work they have done so far in the past 1 year, we rate them and take a look at the work that lies ahead of them. They are vital to democracy, governance, and getting the dividends of democracy. So you might need to buckle up for this conversation because it concerns you. We're joined on the program this morning by a man who's been, of course, watching the National Assembly with his group. Mr. Okepia is a founder and executive director of Order Paper Nigeria, and he joins us from our Abuja studio. It's good to have you on the Morning Brief, Mr. Okepia.
Thank you, Kayode. Good morning.
Good morning. I want to start off with what INEC did a few days ago with the recall matter, just before we get into what to expect, because this is also another important matter, and I'm sure you've seen the release by INEC giving people the guidelines to recalling their lawmakers, saying that they've been inundated with letters, calls from people in different constituencies that they want to recall their lawmakers. So they had to give out the guidelines saying this is how to go about it, this is a percentage you need, this is who you should address it to, and all of that. And I wonder for you, have you been getting that kind of feedback as well? Does it look like people really want to recall their lawmakers? Maybe this might make some of them sit up.
Yeah, people are not very impressed with what lawmakers are doing in the National Assembly. However, the impression, is not properly anchored most of the times. The conversation usually is around, my lawmaker, I don't know what he's doing. I do not see what he's doing. He's assumed to be corrupt. He's assumed to be inefficient and all of that, but there are no authentic, verifiable, and valid basis to make those assumptions. So it's pretty difficult, to sustain those impressions. And for us at Order Paper, we put out data that enable citizens, constituents to be able to make objective, performance appraisals of their senators and House of Representatives members, so that they can validly tell that one is performing or not performing, and then they can activate the recall process as outlined by INEC if they choose to, so the function of lawmaking, which is the integral, duties of the legislature and legislators, needs to be a basis to anchor performance and to determine whether a legislator is performing or not. So, I think that the release by INEC is timely. It's timely with the publication of the performance of the National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly, within its first year in office.
Fantastic. So if you're watching us right now, you're one of those trying to recall your lawmaker, this is a conversation you want to be a part of. So let us know, what are the reasons? Why do you want to recall your lawmaker? Let us know, #CTV Morning Brief. Or if you're watching on YouTube, just drop your comment there. So Mr. Okepia, let's take a look at this appraisal for the Senate and the House of Representatives, something you put out earlier on. And in the past 1 year, now this is a business of lawmaking, we're focusing on making the laws. We see that for the Senate, a total of 475 Senate bills were introduced, 19 passed, 416 awaiting second reading, 37 awaiting committee report, and 3 of them negatived. That's for the red chamber, the upper house. And for the lower house, 1,175 bills, 58 of them passed, 967 awaiting second reading. We see that 69 awaiting committee report, 6 consolidated with other bills, 3 adjourned for debate, 1 recommitted, 1 negative. Now, these are terms a lot of people might not be used to, but it's important to put these things out there so people understand. So when you look at these numbers, Mr. Okepia, what do you see? There's a lot of numbers really playing around there, but let's break it down. In 1 year, is this a pass? Is this a fail? Is this fair? Is this excellent? How do you rate it?
The rating is in the details, Coyote, and we put out the numbers so that it will attract attention. But we also don't want to get citizens overly excited by the numbers, and so we like to have these kind of opportunities to break them down in details, and I thank you for the opportunity to talk to these numbers that you have put up on the screen. Let me first of all clarify that the numbers, the cut-off point of our analysis at Order Paper was from June 2023 to May 2024, which is 1 year assessment window of the 10th National Assembly. It's important to say this because the institution itself, the Senate and the House of Representatives, have also given their figures, which is usually, of course, June to June. So for us, as an independent monitoring parliamentary monitoring organization, we have that cutoff. So it's important to clarify that. But the numbers are what they are. And if you look at the details, there are certain of those numbers there that would like to zero in on. The numbers speak to the volume as you see them. But the volume of bills processed in the National Assembly is really, the list of the issues. We want the numbers to reflect, and that is what we have done, the productivity of lawmakers, because we started to do this about 5 years ago, and we have seen reactions and responses from the National Assembly, and most of these reactions have been to sponsor huge numbers of bills. And that is why if you see the comparative analysis of the first year of the 9th National Assembly and the current 10th National Assembly, you see there is a substantial increase in the number of bills that have been sponsored. So lawmakers are reacting to these appraisals and they are putting in the numbers. But we have also taken it a step higher. So the numbers are not the issue. It is the productivity of the lawmaker, and this is measured by the progression of the bills that have been sponsored. So if you see those numbers that you put out, you see that the Senate has 475 bills sponsored within the period. But of this number, you have 416 of those bills, right, that are awaiting second reading. So it means that of the 6 stages of a bill's progression to become a law, a high number, a majority of those bills have actually not advanced beyond just mere mentions on the floor of the Senate. It is the same thing in the House of Representatives. Of the 1,175 bills that have been sponsored in the House, you have a huge number, 969 of them, that are awaiting second reading. So it shows to you that lawmakers maybe are trying to, put efforts in, but they are also not putting that productivity that is required to advance the bills to critical stages of the legislative process. If you have your bills, and this is there are some lawmakers who are, really caught up in this. They have all of their bills, good numbers of bills, but most of them, if not all of them, are on second. I can give you some examples. So we want people to look beyond the numbers, and looking beyond the numbers also says to you too that yes, if you have this high number of bills that are stuck or stagnated, like we call them, within the first year of the National Assembly, it shows that there's a lot of work to do. Another key index that we also want to highlight is that of these numbers, a huge number of the bills have been brought up from preceding assemblies, so from the 9th Assembly, from the 8 assemblies. These are bills that have been resurrected, or you call them recycled, from previous assemblies. And the numbers are also quite telling. In the Senate, there are about 54% of those bills that were brought back from old assembly, from previous assemblies. In the House of Representatives, about 32% or so. What does this mean? It could suggest to us that, members of the National Assembly just go to the archives and just pick up bills, dust it up, and probably don't do much work and bring it and put their names to it. It would also suggest too that there is the danger of what is now in some circles referred to as legislative plagiarism, where some of these bills are actually not thought through, they are not reworked, they are just copy and paste, they just change the names and bring them all back to into the system. And another more insidious element of this is that we could see a situation where, though this has not been quite confirmed, but we hear stories about how bills are also, merchandised in the National Assembly. So you see people move around and say, have this bill, lawmakers, you want to have your name on this bill. So these kind of things, we hear them. So when we have the data like this, that clearly suggests to us that some of these things may not be untrue, it gives us cause to be concerned. So Kayo, the point is, it's not the number, it's not the volume of the bills that have been sponsored. It is the details. What do those numbers speak to? Do they speak to the productivity of the lawmaker? Do they speak to the progression of the lawmaking process? Do they speak to some level of indigence, some level of laziness, or some level of legislative impropriety in terms of ownership of the bills? Does it speak to a propensity to also want to focus on establishment bills? That's another key, index that we also want to bring out, a key trend, because you see lawmakers, everybody wants to sponsor a bill to leave a legacy, a bill to create a new institution of government, a new department or agency or ministry or agriculture. And so you have a high number of these bills speaking to that. And we think that, yes, while it is a show, an enthusiasm of members of parliament to want to address and deliver on their functions of lawmaking, we should be careful to ensure that we ask the right questions. What are those bills about? The value of those bills, the impact of the proposed legislations, and like I've highlighted just about now, the progression and productivity of the bills and of the lawmakers respectively.
And Mr. Epie, this is quite telling about the measure of scrutiny or the lack of it in our election recruitment process. Perhaps if we looked more closely at those that we were electing, we'll be discussing less of this kinds of pseudo legacy that some lawmakers would rather put on their names rather than originality. But beyond the function of legislation of the National Assembly, let's now look at oversight functions, and particularly this is important as the National Assembly is set to inaugurate a committee, to probe sabotage in the oil sector. We have seen, prior to their resumption today, the increase in the pump price of petrol by more than 300%. Some would say that perhaps the National Assembly should have, cut short its recess to deliberate on this because of the impact on inflation and on rising cost of commodities, and by extension passed on, to the populace. Should the National Assembly, as it resumes today to inaugurate that committee in the short term, be making a review of the Petroleum Industry Act, to look again at introducing pricing regulation? Because if the pump price of petrol is hinged on the value of the naira against the dollar, but then perhaps we're not talking about 1,100 naira per liter. We may be looking at yet another increase in a few months. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, I agree with you. The National Assembly should urgently look into the Petroleum Industry Act, but not necessarily with regard to regulation of prices of products, because that would be counterproductive to the direction of travel of deregulation. Even though deregulation, as we currently see it being, playing out, is confounding, to say the least. But before I come to the nitty-gritty of this question, let me just throw back to your preamble to the question. The lawmakers have, now this tendency, as we have seen, to have pseudo legacies to their name, and it speaks to the issue of, citizens that should be really eagle-eyed and conscious about, the credentials of those that they seek to represent them in the National Assembly. And one of the key reasons why we do this work that we do at Order Paper is so that every constituent, every citizen has a metric to assess the performance of their lawmaker. And we put out the data on 469 members of the National Assembly, and about 100 or so categories and data sets, across the sectors and the population demographics in the National Assembly. All of this on our website at orderpaper.ng. So we want citizens to have this data to see that the 12 bills that Senator Orji Kalu says he has sponsored, for instance, all 12 of them are at first reading. They have not progressed beyond second reading. The 13 bills that Senator Asuku Ekmeyong from Cross River State, for instance, the youngest of the lot in the Senate, all of these 13 bills are at first reading. They have not progressed. So when he goes back home to say, I have sponsored 13 bills, the question should be, where are those 13 bills, distinguished senators? Have they progressed to into the critical stages of the lawmaking progress. So we want citizens to have this data to interrogate. So at the end of 4 years, at the next election cycle, they are able to validly have a basis to determine the electability, of individuals into parliament, whether they want to return them to parliament or not. And so for us, it is critical that we use the available matrix that is objective, that is accurate, that is subject to passing all the integrity tests, of data to determine the performance of lawmakers. And talking about integrity tests and oversight, coming to your question now, it's difficult to really put out an objective performance of the oversight functions and indeed the representation functions of members of parliament. And that is why we have tried to stay within where it is possible to do so on lawmaking. Because how do you assess the performance of the oversight function of the National Assembly on the petroleum industry, for instance? Yes, they're going to have a committee inaugurated, like you have noted. The committee is going to sit through a couple of weeks, if not months. They are going to have a report that the plenary will debate, and then there will be an adoption of that report. But what happens after then? And we have seen this. This would not be the first time that the oil industry, the petroleum and gas sector, is being investigated by the National Assembly. In fact, there is almost a weariness by actors in the sector to attend some of these hearings and investigations. And we see some of these things happen. They don't show up sometimes. It's also because, nothing appears to come out of these investigations. So how do you now determine performance based on those oversights, that are most of the time be clouded by assumptions of, other agendas rather than the pursuit of the public good? So yes, but coming to your question around if they should look into a review of the Petroleum Industry Act, I absolutely agree with you. The Petroleum Industry Act enacted in 2021 has been in operation for just this short number of years. But we have seen a lot of inconsistencies and difficulties. So it is about time that we look beyond just the psychedelic activity of, probes and probes. What are the sections, provisions of the law that are making it difficult for it to be fully implemented? What are the sections of the law that make it difficult for transparency, accountability, and probity, prudence of public resources to happen, to be displayed and manifested in the petroleum sector, a sector that accounts for over 90% of our foreign exchange earnings, a sector that is where, the economy runs on, even though its contribution to the GDP is meager. But that is where we have, and that is what it is. So why do we not have some of these loopholes, addressed holistically? I give you an example. Why does the Petroleum Industry Act, have a provision, for instance, that gives an ouster clause, that puts an ouster clause on the Fiscal Responsibility Act, oversighting over the operations of the NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, as we have it. So those are the kind of things that gives concerns to industry stakeholders. Say, hey, look, NNPC is a state-owned company. So why do you remove it from an enactment, from a law that allows it to be under, transparent and accountable checks and balances within the government? Those are the kind of review that we want to see. We want to see review that allows an NNPC to be truly subjugated to regulation by the NDPRA, truly subjugated and subservient to regulation by the NUPRC. Not an NNPC that appears to still have its old clothing, its old character on, even though it has now a new clothing. So these are the issues we want to see. What are these impediments? So yes, while it is all right that the National Assembly is instituting a probe into the oil and gas industry, we think that a more sustainable way to go about it would be to look into what are those impediments that have hindered the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act and address them from the root cause.
And your skepticism is valid because of the past committees instituted to probe crude oil theft that have not particularly produced any results in the form of prosecution, arrest of offenders, but really is perhaps through lobbying or any other approach during the public hearing that will be following this inauguration of this committee. How does it tackle the issues of, for instance, those who are perceived to be working against a domestic institution, talking about the Dangote refinery now, such that it's not allowing it, to serve the purpose for which it was established. How do we introduce into this committee the issue of ending importation of petrol? How do we also introduce into this committee this very germane issue of, NNPCL not being the sole importer of petrol, such that the sector will be truly liberalized? What are the approaches, perhaps that this committee will be adopting, should be adopting, so that these issues can be tackled holistically?
Oh, well, I'm sure the committee had its mandate fully set out for it. I recall that the mandate of the committee was broadened beyond its initial enactment in the plenary of the Senate, and it was asked to look into, a more extensive, area around economic sabotage, centered around the oil and gas sector. So its mandate is now really broad, and I can predict that it will take a lot of time, a lot of months, for this committee to be able to round up its assignments. And I mean, knowing the character and nature, the antecedents and precedents of the National Assembly, when probes drag on like this, all manners of drama, all manners of, distractions happen that could whittle down, or detract from the objective of the committee, So it may be necessary that they look into, issues around why, private sector participation. I mean, participation beyond just the NNPC in the importation of petrol is not quite working well. In other words, what is making deregulation of the downstream sector of the economy not to work, which is the objective, one of the objectives of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021. So it goes beyond just the NNPC. And I had referenced in my earlier comments, it does appear that the regulatory agencies in the sector, the NDPRA, the NUPRC, are not quite up and doing in their mandate. You still see that preponderance of the NNPC in calling the shots, in making decisions. Why is the NNPC almost still the sole importer of product in the country? Why is the NNPC still able to access certain preferences and certain privileges, that deny other marketers, that put them, of course, at disadvantaged position to be able to compete in a healthy manner? This conversation is not into the detail of the oil and gas industry, but I agree with you. This committee needs to be able to look into some of these issues. And if it is looking to economic sabotage, of course, there will be actors within the system, within the, the regulatory agencies. There will be actors within the NNPC, as it were. There will be actors even within the National Assembly, right, who could be complicit in all of this. And that is where the resolve, the courage, indeed the political will of the National Assembly, it comes into, questioning. Would it have that political will? Would it have that courage to be able to look into the eyes, of some of these, big players, for some of these, influential, very powerful actors, and say, look, you are the cause of the problem. Well, I've not had probes upon probes on crude oil theft. Right. What has been the result? We know the issues, but I mean, the political way to address them is not just there. Again, so I restate, these are theatrics, and I think that Nigerians are beginning to get wary of these theatrics, and we should be looking into harnessing the issues from the law, from the statutes, the provisions of the PIA. Perhaps we can make some progress from that angle.
And that should be really the essence of the National Assembly, or the different assemblies state, should be very relevant, so that people can pair the work they're doing with the realities on ground. So they're working within the context of the realities, not out of it. They're doing something else and the people are experiencing another thing. And I think that has been the challenge. We'll take some of the comments people have sent in saying that, well, they're not really feeling the effect of lawmaking on their lives. And, the challenges that are there. And I think it's quite interesting what you did, breaking down the bills, giving them, putting them into sectors. And I just looked through and I realized that education was top. Bills that were related to education in both houses now, the Senate and the House of Reps, top. So there are more bills on education, social services. Perhaps there's a reason for that. But then you look at agriculture and food security, which is in reality on ground now, which a lot of people expect that there will be a lot of activity in that regard. For the Senate, bills on agriculture and food security, 7%. For the House of Reps, 5%. While you have education having as much as 27%, 318 bills in the House of Reps. You have social services, which is, of course, health, and the rest having as much as 128, 10%. And I can go on and on. So my challenge here is how relevant lawmaking is to, first, what people are going through and how fast it is able to at least be ahead of those issues such that the solution is not coming 2 years after the people are feeling the pain. So what would you be advising them to do differently? We'll still get to lawmakers that have not done anything. We'll get to that within 1 year. But regarding the relevance of lawmaking to the realities on ground, what would be your advice?
My advice is for citizens and constituents particularly to take a lot more interest in the bills that have been sponsored. The devil is in the details, they say. The higher number of bills in the education sector that we have, it will shock you, Coyote, to know that those bills are not really speaking to the essence, of correcting the institutional decay of the sector. Many of those bills, the data suggests to us clearly, are targeted at creating new institutions, new educational institutions, new institutions, polytechnics, universities. These days the joke is becoming that every National Assembly member wants to have a constituency project become an institution to their name, a legacy project, just like governors and the presidents have. So they also want to have legacy projects. Yeah, so while it is okay that they have these high numbers of bills focused on the education sector, but what are those bills really seeking to do? Are they seeking to address the acute issue of underfunding in this sector? Are they seeking to address the issues of, the quality of education that is provided to students and pupils? The issue is that they are seeking to establish new institutions, whilst the ones that we have not been properly catered for. So these are the issues. We encourage citizens to make a demand of their senators and members in the House of Representatives. Those bills that you have sponsored, what are they about? Were we even consulted before those bills were sponsored? We should have a say, we should have a point, and that's where you talk about the relevance of these bills to the lives and living conditions of citizens and constituents. Until we begin to make these demands, we will not be able to bring them to the table and have decent and healthy conversations and debates about what should be their stewardship in 4 years in the National Assembly. So we have put out all those data sets around the sectors, agriculture, gender, social services, and all of that. So you go look it up on our website and you'll be able to make your impressions and form your opinion. And be able to, at the end of the day, call for the stewardship report of members of your National Assembly.
We're going now on this conversation. It's a very important one. And I just want us to end with a look from your report at lawmakers that have not put up a bill, at least in the period under review from June to May. So Nigerians can see some of these lawmakers. It's quite a long list, but you see in the House of Reps, quite a number of them. Naturally, the House of Reps has more of those lawmakers, and it's a long list, as I said, just so Nigerians can see what their lawmakers are doing. They say that eternal vigilance is the price for liberty. So these are some of the lawmakers that, well, have. If
I can just give you the figures.
Yes, please, go ahead.
For the House of Representatives, there are 149 of them who did not sponsor a bill in the period under review. 149 members of the House of Representatives, rather, and a good number of these are new members. We call them the newbies. In the Senate, the number is 15. At least 15 senators did not sponsor a bill in the period under review. And these include ex-governors, include even new bees. So, I mean, all of those is scroll up, and they're all available on our platforms, on social media, on our website at orderpaper.ng. So just to put the numbers to it, these are the faces people should look out for, the names that people should look out for. This is not to say, I must add quickly, Coyote, that they may not have been doing other things in the National Assembly. They could have been very well involved in committee oversight functions. They could have been doing very well in the delivery of constituency projects. But clearly, they have not done a bit that is required of them in the core function of why they are in the National Assembly.
There you go. And that's the point that is also important to make. That's why Nigerians have to engage and know what your lawmaker is doing. They may not have put up a bill, they may have done something else, or not done anything, in fact. But we have to thank you so much. It's a big day at the National Assembly today. We'll definitely be there to give Nigerians all that they need to know. Mr. Okepia, founder and executive director, Order Paper Nigeria. Thank you for the work you're doing, and I know that we'll be speaking to you sometime soon to review their work yet again. Thank you.
I can hear him.
Well, it's okay. We can hear you. We have to anchor at this point, but when we return, we'll talk about petrol. You know, we talked about it a lot in this lawmaking process, but what is happening on ground right now, particularly with the marketers? That's in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back. So it's time to turn our attention to that very important matter, petrol supply, its price, and how it affects your pocket. What exactly is happening with, the lifting of petrol by the NNPCL from Dangote? And as marketers initiate conversation with Dangote refinery, how would it affect, how accessible the product is to you? Maybe not necessarily lower price. Let's understand the issues as Mr. Chinedu Ukadike, spokesman of Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, joins us. Mr. Ukadike, good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Yeah, good morning and good morning, Nigeria.
So we hear, as we start off, that your association is about to commence conversation with Dangote Refinery on possible direct lifting of the product from Dangote Refinery. Now, this sounds like cheery news, but should Nigerians be moderate in their expectations about the possibility of reduction in price? What are we to expect? And, this is a valid question because Nigerians have had their hearts broken over and over again with the continuing increase in the pump price of petrol. So what really should we be expecting?
Yeah, it's just very simple. It shows that the liberalization of the market is on course because there is no way Dangote will be producing premium motor spirits in Nigeria without considering the independent marketers as stakeholders, one of the strategic stakeholders. I was also thinking that Dangote, the first point of call, not even NNPCL, Dangote, the first point of call was to discuss with independent marketers because the independent marketers have the capacity to be able to distribute every petroleum product produced by Dangote here in Nigeria. We have the capacity. We are situated in the nooks and crannies of this country. We are highly spread. And we have the number of filling stations. We possess over 75 to 80% of filling stations in Nigeria, strategically located in the nooks and crannies of the country. So it is very, very pertinent at this point that Dangote should discuss with the independent marketers. And I want to also let you know that immediately that is done and we commence directly lifting from Dangote, the issue of petroleum pricing and differential in pricing will be gone because what we are seeing here is what we call price disparity. If the independent marketers are now become dependent, because we are supposed to break the bulk from our consumers.
And let me quickly follow up on that. You said if that is done, you are going to resolve the issue of pricing, if I got you correctly. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Does it mean a reduction in the price, a possible reduction in price?
Yes, it means that because it's going to give us an opportunity for a healthy competition. It is no longer independent marketers depending on another source to be able to get this product. Dangote also opened up to the independent marketers when he started producing his automated gasoline oil, that's AGO. And we entered into the market and we are buying Dangote's AGO. And you can also find out that when Dangote came in, AGO was around 1,600. Now, with the help of the independent marketers, we are buying AGO in quantity, and we are the highest patronizers of Dangote's AGO. As we are buying these products, we're also distributing to our customers, and we're also giving to companies. So it enabled Dangote to be able to spread this AGO, and AGO price came down from 1,600 to almost 1,000 naira and 1,100. And we're still doing more. What we are talking about is this is a deregulated economy. Every stakeholders and players should be given equal opportunity to be able to exhibit, to be able to compete. It is not.
Oh dear, we have connection issues through to Mr. Nwadike. But I was going to follow up by asking him how the independent marketers are moving past the challenge of NNPCL being the sole importer, so to speak, this issue of monopoly. But I guess he's back now. Mr. Nwadike, are you back now? Can you hear me? Okay, he hasn't returned yet. Hopefully he would return. But of course, that would be a major issue in the conversation that the independent marketers are going to be having with, Dangote Refinery. What is the disposition of the NNPCL, being the major corporation, the country's oil company? What is its disposition towards this conversation? Is it comfortable with, the independent marketers having this conversation with Dangote Refinery directly, with it still being the sole importer of petrol in the country?
I know Nigerians will also want to find out what part they will be playing in this seeming back and forth. Some have described it as a game, needless game. So what role will the petroleum marketers be playing? Will they change anything significantly, particularly with the pricing? And he has said that, well, with competition, it's meant to bring down the price of PMS or petrol in the country. So we need to understand how these moving parts will be moving, whether in favor of Nigerians or not in favor of Nigerians. That's the big one. That's actually the crux of this matter. Pricing and availability. Well, quality is also big, but pricing, availability, and quality, these are just the simple issues Nigerians want to know. They do not want all the seeming games. But I imagine that Mr. Nwadike is back with us on this. You can land on the point you were making, Mr. Nwadike.
Yeah, it's very simple. With the independent marketer, it was an act of parliament that brought us because of indigenization of marketing of petroleum products. Before, marketing was left in the hands of the big heads, that's the foreigners, who came into this country and was exploiting the oil and also refining the oil and also distributing. So independent marketers was introduced, the proponent of the independent marketers, we decided to bring in independent marketers to give the indigenous people an opportunity to market this product at the same time. And that is why we are not only situated in the major areas in the city. We are situated in the hinterland and villages. There is no place, any village in this country, you will not see the presence of independent marketers. So we are strategically located, and the proponent of this independent marketer did not also see us as the second tier of distribution. We are supposed to be in the first front. We are supposed to break the jinx of bulk purchase. We are not supposed to take these products from another source, to another source. That is why you see the issue of pricing is escalating. If NNPCL will get product as the only source of this product, and they will give it to DAPMA members, DAPMA members might also give it to MOMA members. MOMA members might give to their colleagues. Their colleagues will now come and turn to now sell to the independent marketers. There is no way this chains of distribution will pass through without reflecting in prices. So that is why we are saying we are comfortable with NNPC. We have been buying product from NNPC. If the NNPC product is cheap or even cheaper, the independent marketers we are ready to buy. If Dangote product is cheap or even cheaper, then the independent marketers we are also ready to buy. We are versatile. We are two ways in this issue of distribution. What we are looking for is quality products and the less price.
Okay, so let's get this clear. You said two things. If NNPC's price is cheaper, you buy. If Dangote price is cheaper, you buy. That means that NNPC is still importing petrol. Am I correct?
Yes, they stated it clearly that they will continue to import. That is the beauty of deregulation. If the imported product is cheaper, if you look at rice. There was a time the local rice even becoming more expensive. Than
I understand, but help us understand this. How is it possible that imported product is cheaper? Does that imply that NNPC still continues to pay subsidy? And I think this is a given, but I'd like to hear from you because it really does not make sense. If we're getting this quality for this amount, how much are we getting that same petrol out there? I imagine the same price or even more. So how does it come in and it ends up being cheaper than what is produced locally? It has to be subsidy, right? Or is there any other explanation?
Well, I also believe that the government is trying to be very, very careful. I use this word a kind of quasi-subsidy, whereby the government doesn't want to levy the burden of importation and some of these charges on the people so that it will not skyrocket galloping inflation. So it is now left for those who is managing the economic aspect of the country to be able to look at their position in terms of the imported products and also in terms of the product that Dangote is producing. I believe relatively that Dangote, after a kind of establishing the refinery, like the way he did in Asia, will come out with his price, and the price should be made open. It's not that we're going to give NNPC the opportunity to determine, or federal government to determine price. When you look at that statement, there must be an underlying factor. I don't understand what led them to making such a statement that federal government will be the determining factor for their pricing in terms of PMS. But when you now produce AGO, you did not bring in the federal government. You did not say NNPC will be the sole off-taker of this product. So something is really fishing that with independent marketers we don't know. I want to let you know that what we are willing buyers, and for any willing seller who is ready to sell to us and will continue to be in business, we will do that. We will not want a situation where our counterparts will buy this PMS cheaper and we will go to their hand to go and buy. That is why you see this desperation queue on the filling station. There is availability of products, but the problem we're having now is pricing. If you go to NNPC retail filling station, you will see surge of trucks packed with loaded with PMS. And they are selling very, very cheap.
Let me quickly follow up on something that you said. You said the NNPCL is still importing. If that is the case, what if I may ask, is the benefit of the Dangote refinery? If it is still importing, is it the last stock that it imported before it went into conversation with Dangote refinery and the announcement of that committee on sale of crude oil and lifting of petrol, or it is still importing actively after conversation with Dangote refinery? Please clarify.
Yeah, actually, when Dangote rolled out its PMS, there was a little problem between the NNPC, Dangote and the federal government. And Dangote was not giving crude. And Dangote was also asking that the crude should be sold to them in Naira. And because NNPC is not forthcoming in sending crude to Dangote, Dangote have to go and import crude oil. So there is a lacuna. The business arrangement was not stretching. And I also believe that I think they are starting to understand themselves. So NNPC will not keep hands in Akimbo and wait for Dangote to maybe to run to East Hams, or Dangote will keep hands in Akimbo and wait for NNPC to supply crude before he will start his business. Both of them have their two-way thing. So Dangote have also gone out of his way to go and get crude. And they brought crude into this country and they refine. NNPC is buying that crude oil refined product in dollar. Now, NNPC will not just watch Dangote, monopolize the market or they decide to frustrate them, because it was also hitting on Nigerians. There was serious scarcity. Fuel was even going to close to 2,000 naira. So there must be an intervention product. Either NNPC has imported this product before Dangote will fix that. I'm also looking at Dangote's policy in terms of selling this product to them. They have to import to be able to cushion the effect and sufferings of Nigerians. And also I want to tell you that those products that NNPC has imported, most of them are coming in. It's cargo. And they will also be distributing it. They also have been given to independent marketers. Now that NNPC gave us their template, because one very, very sure of this is that NNPC gave us their template of selling petroleum products at 866 to 895, depending on the depot you are loading from. And then they said, we cannot sell a petroleum product at a cheap price like that. Our product is almost, they were not even really clear, but they said that it is not true that NNPC is buying petroleum product at 800. So if NNPC is selling to us the imported product at 879, 878, depending on the coastal depot you are taking it from. So what is waiting for Dangote to give us PMS at 1,001 something or 1,000? It doesn't make any sense. So it is for Dangote to be able to come down and be able to match the reality of NNPC. Because if NNPC can be able to bring in this product from somewhere in another refinery and was able to say a local refinery should also look at the semantics surrounding the business and be able to give us a friendly price that can connote that, yes, Dangote refinery is here.
Mr.
So we support Dangote.
Right.
Yes.
And it's important to really put things in perspective here. We have to ensure that we support our own and our own people as well. But don't you think it would be fair then to have NNPC give a breakdown of the products they import? It was good they gave a breakdown of the one they got from Dangote. They did all of the addition. But do you know the breakdown of the one that the NNPC import? Have you seen that breakdown? Do you know how much it costs? All those different breakdowns till we get to the 800 plus that you get it from. Do you know the breakdown, Mr. Nwadike? Has NNPC ever shown you that breakdown? Talk more Nigerians.
Well, to be very sincere and honest, I'm not part of, I've never imported product with NNPC, in partnership with NNPC. I don't know the breakdown, but as a marketer who is interested in buying this petroleum product and compete with other retailers, you also remember NNPC is retailing, DAPMA members are retailing, MOMA members are retailing. So I'm not interested in getting product where it's high. I'm really interested in getting products where it's cheaper so that our consumers...
Of course, I understand, and that's his business for you. So I'm curious that the NNPC has done that for Dangote's product, but they've not done it for the product they import. That's on the one hand. On the other hand is seeing that this their breakdown now looks like petrol will be costing 950 to 1,000 plus, depending on what part of the country you are in. Can they find a way? Do you think it would also make sense for them to maybe introduce some sort of under recovery shortfall if it looks like the price of Dangote is higher from their own breakdown? Don't you think it will be fair for the good of the people as well?
Well, I think the NNPC and federal government are trying to make Nigeria realize what they are passing through, because at the point they say they can no longer import, they are owing, and when a country come up publicly to be able to say they can no longer import, they are owing their importers and all the rest of them, you know that is a very serious challenge.
But they are still importing, Mr. Nwadike. From what you said, they are still importing. Where did they get the money from?
No, I'm not a minister. I'm not the minister of petroleum. I'm not the minister of petroleum. So wherever they get the money, our interest as independent marketers is to be loaded petroleum product so that we can take to our filling station and have return on investment. Our interest clearly is to ensure that there is constant petroleum product in our filling station at a cheaper price, not a price that will be different from other competitors. NNPC said clearly today that they are selling, Dangote said they are going to sell petroleum products 766 naira to major marketers. We, the independent marketers, we are still buying 879 naira, 888, 886, depending on the coastal depot. And so how can we compete? We're almost, the major marketers and retail marketers are almost 112 naira, 100, which is around 5 to 6 million naira before we, the independent marketers. So how we are expecting the independent marketers, who is going to take care of his logistics, his haulage, pay his staffs, to be able to compete in this industry? So the horse is before the cart. So we are saying that whatever that is good for the goose is also good for the gender. Give us our volume. If NNPC is the only source, we don't care. What we want is that NNPC should give us that volume. We don't want to take product again from DAPMA members. We're no longer interested in all this round-tripping of bringing petroleum products. By the time the product will get to us, it was all getting to 1,200 naira. So how do we survive in this kind of competitive environment?
So, Mr. Nwadike, is NNPCL going to allow this conversation happen? Because the implication is that you're going to break its monopoly if you're projecting that after this conversation with Dangote Refinery, the price at which you will sell will be lower. Will the NNPCL allow this?
Well, we don't care how the NNPCL feel, because I also believe that NNPCL will also mean good for the people. If actually we'll go to Dangote and Dangote give us a very cheaper price, knowing the strategic nature of independent marketers, knowing how we can be able to go every petroleum product, it is it is insane that they should give us product through DAPMAN, they should give us product through NNPC. It's not right in the competition. What is the essence of this deregulation? When somebody says that there is a law, there is a PIA law, why are we breaking it? Why are we sabotaging the law? If we have placed law and Mr. President have said this economy has been deregulated, every player should be given fair opportunity, very good opportunity to be able to compete. We cannot compete alongside by side. You see a major marketer filling station, you see an independent marketer squeeze in between the major marketer and retail outlet owners, NNPCL filling station. They are selling at the cost they were buying. So how can we compete? These people want to chase out of this business. That is a problem.
So what's the potential in the reduction of price that you are looking at after this conversation with Dangote? What will independent marketers likely be selling petrol for if you succeed in this conversation with Dangote?
I will give you one little example. When PMS was around 195 naira, I beat my chest and stand here firmly to state clearly that independent marketers were selling lower than 195, even lower than the template of the federal government. Because we know that these filling stations we have here, we borrow money from bank. And we need to pay back the bank. And the bank needs turnover. So anything that will make us cut corners, positive corners, to be able to sell the product cheaper, we will do that. We are not interested in making all the whole money. We are interested in doing a kind of a turnover and be able to pay our staffs and maintain our filling stations. We have the best filling station in Nigeria. So we are battle ready for this deregulation. And it's a competitive environment. So let them give us the products as they are giving to others. Then we can now go out and work our logistics. Some of us own our trucks. We might even take our truck transportation as part of our gain and sell lower than the NNPC. I want to challenge you on that. We'll sell lower than NNPC. But the most important is that let this product be given to us. If this product is not given to us, we are not buying from NNPC. We are buying from DAPMAN members. How do you now want us to compete in this kind of environment? So that's why when you go to
pardon me, when you say let this,
go to independent marketers,
right?
Independent marketers filling stations.
Right. So let me just quickly put this in. When you say let this product be given to us, by who? Who is not giving you that product? Let's just be clear here.
By Dangote. If this product is given to us by Dangote, we will do much better.
I thought
I also want to tell you that I also want to tell you that the competition will set in. We are ready. We have the capacity. We have the money. We have the storage facilities. We are strategically located. And if you look at the 21, because when you talk about distribution, you don't talk about distribution by trucking. You also talk about distribution by NNPC energeting their 21 depots. Once all these depots are being energeted and the pipelines are working, the product will be much cheaper. What is causing this problem is cost of transportation and logistics and handling charges. By the time this product arrives in a filling station, you have spent over 4 to 5 million. You have to impute it.
Well, Mr. Nwadike, let me get this correctly. So I thought that you had already opened a conversation with Dangote Refineries Limited. That's one. Let us know if there's a conversation on already and if there's a green light in that sense or not. That's one. Two is, you said that you buy from wherever is cheaper. So are you implying that Dangote petrol is cheaper now? And that's contrary to what you said earlier. If you're saying, let them give us the product, is Dangote's product now cheaper? So those two questions.
No, the question is that we are anticipating to sit down with Dangote, and I think that arrangement is on. And any moment from now, the discussion will be wrapped up. So it is a gradual
Has
process.
the discussion begun already? Have you started talking to Dangote?
No. Well, we have started. We have written, and he has also replied us that he's going to give us an opportunity to sit down and discuss. And I also believe that between this week and next week, that discussion will take place. And whatever that comes out of that discussion, we'll also make it public to Nigeria. That one is certain. And because we have been on the media, we are trying to ensure that people should understand the plight of independent marketers. Because most people look at independent marketers as those who sell petroleum products very, very expensive, that we are profit total, that we don't even care the feelings of the market. That is not correct. We are businessmen. Anything that will make us continue to be in business, we will do that. Definitely that one is number one. So we are optimistic that this our relationship and business engagement with Dangote will be able to break this bureaucratic distribution of petroleum products from one chain to another. Also with NNPC, because the Port Harcourt refinery is coming up. We are hopeful that Port Harcourt refinery is coming up. And once Port Harcourt refinery is coming, we don't want to take our product from a second tier, third tier. We want to take our product directly so that we can be able to cut off all this unnecessary round tripping of pricing. You understand me? That is what we are advocating for.
So, It's very,
very clear and simple.
Mr. Nwadike, let me quickly ask a question that had been asked earlier in a different way. So many have frowned at the propriety of NNPC's pump price following the lifting from Dangote because, of course, the importation cost is no longer there, port charges are no longer there, and therefore 950 naira per litre is unacceptable. Based on your experience in the industry, what would have been an ideal price of petrol from Dangote if all of these other costs are not there?
Well, I'm not in part of production, actually. I've been in the marketing of petroleum products. But what I want to tell you is that now the Port Harcourt refinery is around the corner. Dangote is already here. And competition will set in. And they said the factors of demand and supply determines price. When there is excessive supply, the price will go down. Everybody wants to sell. It happened in when the telecommunication and all this MTN and SIM card came on board. It was very high. Now it's high. I want to tell you it's high now. I also want to tell you that once Port Harcourt refinery sets in, another modular refineries continue to produce. I want to tell you today that product will come very, very low. And we, the independent marketers, will be the beautiful price. We will now go to where you will get it as cheap as possible.
Well, it's very interesting how everybody's angling for Nigeria's love at this point. But final note, where did you get your product from the last time?
NNPC. We were bonded immediately after Mr. President announced the deregulation for the removal of subsidy. We are bonded into NNPCL quota. And NNPCL has been giving us products and has been sustaining the independent marketers. Also, sometimes we buy from DAPMA members. You understand me? When we can be able to, get from NNPCL. But I also want to let you know that all these products, all these sources came from NNPC. So we don't want that run tripping anymore. What we want is our products should be given to us. We know how we can be able to manage with our marketers. And I also want to reassure you that products will be cheap and it will be distributed as quickly as possible.
All right, you know, when you keep saying that products will be cheap,
How much is cheap is the question.
yeah, how much is cheap is the question. And you're non-committal to the question on pricing, you know, pretty much says a lot about how much you would be selling even after your conversation with Dangote sails through. But we'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Chinedu Nwadike, National Publicity Secretary, Public Relations Officer, I beg your pardon, of Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time, and we wish you all the best in that conversation with Dangote Refinery. Thank you for coming on the program.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I also want to state clearly here that the factors of demand and supply determines price. Once there is adequate supply, price will come down. I reassure you that.
All right, we'll take your word for it. Thank you for coming on the program.
Yeah, God bless you.
Amen. And after the timeout, we'll switch gears to a lighter conversation. We'll be interacting with the OG this morning and be recalling memories of some of your favorite movies of the past, and of course, projecting into the future. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Subsidy. Unfortunately, the budget that I've glimpsed before I assumed office, and what I've heard is that no provision is there for fresh subsidy. The fresh subsidy is gone.
Yes, welcome back. And what you just saw, of course, we'll be talking more about it later on. But let's welcome ace movie director, producer, and script writer in Nollywood, Mr. Ralph Nwadike, who is also Ambassador Ralph Nwadike, Ambassador of the
State of Africa.
State of Africa in the diaspora.
Yes, ma'am.
It's good to have you, sir.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
And many may not know that you have your name on great works like Contractors in the past, Most Wanted,
That's correct.
Fortune,
That's correct.
Palace,
Yes.
and in fact you wrote scripts for some of the soap operas of the past with the old Nigerian television authority. Village Master,
Second Chance, telenovelas, name it.
Yes.
Oh, we've done it all.
Yes.
Yes.
So share with us your experience from that time before we get into your work of today.
Yes. First off, I must give credence to God because He made everything possible for me. Yes, my experience with NTA has been a great one, and to God be the glory. Most of the people that are really thriving in the industry all came from NTA. Of course, your chairman, Honorable John Momo, Dr. John Momo, was also in NTA. And yeah, my experience was a very good one because you were taught literally everything. Television was a complete one, all right? As a scriptwriter, you have the best heads who were your bosses. As I had some of the best ogas of those days. The late Kalu Opui was my chief scriptwriter. Of course, Baba, we call him Baba, Peter Igo, was a boss. Then, of course, Dr. Eziokoli, who was the Director General. You know, these are great people who literally lived for television. So it was a great experience walking through those beautiful corridors of NTA and being taught. Most of the things I know now, we learned from NTA, and I'm grateful to NTA for that.
And looking at your movies, you know, the trajectory and the patterns from that time up until now, you appear to be the chief of thrillers and suspense, you know, from that time. Now, when you look at the progress and the introduction of innovation in the movie industry today, what are some of the high points for you?
Well, basically, you see, time changes, okay? There are different eras, all right? Well, some people call us old school. Well, I may have all this gray, but I think I'm still young when I compare myself to people like Clint Eastwood, who is now 94. I think he just went back to shoot some movie. So basically, time changes. You see, you cannot compare those days that I was a young writer or was a young producer to this time. Because, I mean, everything evolves. I mean, in those days, there was nothing like YouTube, for instance. But now YouTube seems to be taking over. All right. In those days, when I was working with NTA, it was strictly NTA. People ran home, all right, from whatever they're doing to go watch our programs. Programs like Fortunes and even Palace. I mean, it was a thing of pride when you go on the street and you see the street literally vacant. All right. And then after the project, after the program, people start trooping out. Sometimes I go into those eateries in those days, and people, hey, what's going to happen or whatever. And I'm sitting down there watching the excitement, you know, the euphoria that the fact people are really, you know, clapping and enjoying your program. Those were the days where television was not so much. But again, well, modernity has come in, and there's so much television to see, to view, to enjoy, but it's all good. We just have to evolve, all right? We keep on growing, all right? Time is not static. We keep on moving. That's just it.
I don't know if you would describe yourself as a Gen Z at heart, really.
Look, not too long ago that I lost my mom, all right? And even at my age, my mom at that time was still considering me, like, well, I'm going, I'm married though. Where are you going? When are you coming back? I said, Mama,
always mommy's baby.
That is it. So, yeah, you can call me Gen Z like that.
And that's why I want to ask this question, because there's a lot to learn from your experience. I mean, you did, and you're still doing it, which we'll get to. But you did it at a time, as you said, there wasn't YouTube. That's so you had to do a lot more work. I imagine what editing was like for you. Now people edit on their mobile phones. You can edit a proper, you know, feature length on your phone, literally. In fact, there's a movie coming out that was shot fully on the phone. Music videos shot on phones, mobile phones. But then you had to use the huge equipment. I don't want to imagine what editing was like for you. And let's move on from there. But looking at the Gen Zs, the younger generation, what they're doing, how they're churning out, you know, productions, the business side of it as well. What is that one mistake that you think your generation made that you don't want this generation to make right now? One or maybe two.
Well, I'll just say, and I'll be very frank with you, we never made mistakes. All right? It's these days that of production that people do those literally to what I call silly mistakes. In our time, all right? Oh, well, in those days,
it's okay.
You cannot, for instance, you guys are doing a wonderful show. Like I came in, I said, when I grow up, I want to be like you guys. You know, you see.
Thank you.
In those days, nobody makes. You don't go on a set like this, and you are pronouncing somebody's name wrongly. Okay, but people get away with it. It's like getting away with murder. I mean, in those days, people, you woke up very early. You know, I mean, you get to location on time. And then those one, you know, live broadcasts like you guys, you get there even before some of the cameraman walks in because you are there. Everybody's excited. Let's do this. Let's do this. Those were the things that we grew up with. Those are the things we were taught. Those are the things we learned. The ones we learned in school, the ones we learned as professionals, you know, in training. All right. And then we're always looking forward to the job. The money was not much, but it was okay. All right. I remember in those days I was paid 400 naira, okay, for a script, for a visual master script, a 1 hour script. I used to do two scripts in one night, okay? And then at that time, graduate salary per month was like 290 something naira, all right? But I was earning 400 naira per script.
So that's a lot of money.
It was a lot of money.
Yeah.
But of course, you see, some of us, of course, were not taught about investment and everything, but the monies we were earning, we're using not just for ourselves, we're using it for the community, all right? But it was a good thing. And then what makes you a man at that time was not the money, the money you have in your account. It was your ability to do your job. And at the end of the day, you come and people say, oh, that was good. Thank you very much. And they're asking you, so what's going to happen? So what happened to Lagbaja? What happened to Tamidu? Those are the things that gives us the adrenaline to go out and work daily.
And I think you've maybe identified one of the things you want this generation to learn. You talked about investment,
yes,
for example, and that's been a major challenge. And I think in this industry, across board. So what you have now is, yes, we understand that we want investors from out there to come in.
That's correct.
So the people mining our stories are the ones getting the full value for it, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Exactly. So it's like crude oil all over again. You know, the IOCs come in, they mine the crude, we export, they refine, yes, sell petrol back to us, and they're the ones on the Forbes list. But we that have a story, we have a culture, the people, majority of it, are not getting a good slice of that pie.
I'll tell you something. And I'm not very, very proud of those era, all right? There was this era where the marketers, Nigerian filmmakers, were like semi or demigods, yeah, okay? Whatever they say holds water. They can just wake up today and say, look, I don't like your face. You didn't say good morning to me yesterday, and so today I'm going to call for your ban. And they do ban some of those, our A-list actors, all right? That, unfortunately, is the decline we're about to face again with this modern day production, where a producer sources for funds, goes all out, maybe borrows money from, well, the banks really don't give that kind of assistance, but gets investors to invest in your project. And then at the end of the day, there must be aggregators you have to go through. And then, of course, because the cinema culture in Nigeria, I must commend them. They're trying. I think they have about 80 or 90 cinema outlets all over Nigeria, country, yeah, you know, but it's not enough. China, for instance, has about 10,000 cinema outlets. America has about 6,000, all right? And we're supposed to be competing against them. It's not possible. But of course, what I'm trying to get at is this country, the producers, the writers, we have the potentials to be the best. Because, look, listen, we schooled at the same places they went to. That was at UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, all right? I didn't go there picking onions on the fields. I went there to study, to learn the same film works, techniques, everything. I was taught there. Minus the little education we had here in Nigeria, all right? I read dramatic arts, specialized in playwriting. So what am I trying to say, all right? We need what we need is the investors. We need those people with the funds, all right? If you can invest in oil sector, come and invest in Nollywood. Come and invest in the production, because, look, I tell people that, look, we produce with local currency and then sell at the international rate, international market. For instance, my new film, we shot for over 100 million naira. Now, that film, if I take it to the big streamers, okay, they'll probably, you know, equate it to maybe $250,000, maybe to up to $500,000. So you can see the margins in it. So we need to be encouraged by the investors. Let them come and invest in Hollywood. Let them come and talk to their social movie producers, where my president, Queen Blessing the Biggest, is doing a fantastic job. But let them talk to Nollywood. Nollywood is, in fact, Nollywood is the new oil, yeah, that Nigeria is still struggling with. They don't know that. I mean, which business will you do that will give you 110% profit? It's only in Nollywood.
And you can say that again, because some directors are, you know, taking their films for viewing outside the country in major institutions.
That is correct.
And that's some progress. But relatedly about lessons, it would seem, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that increasingly emerging movie directors are breaking, who double as actors, by the way, are breaking that cult of the past of marketers and directors blacklisting A-list actors for one reason or the other, because they are increasingly becoming directors of some sorts and producers, you know, by themselves and taking on, you know, major challenges. But how is that impacting on quality of production? And, you know, this question is ideally for you because you were in the past president of the Association of Movie Producers.
Two-time president.
Yeah, we see a flurry of producers now. In fact, more content creators,
yes,
you know, on social media who are churning out one thing or the other in the name of content. So how is that impacting on quality of productions on the whole?
Well, I'll say positively. For instance, if you have to shoot a film, I mean, the film itself, you must go for the high-end equipment. My last project, the equipment alone cost us over 23 million naira. Equipment alone. In fact, jokingly, when my
rental or direct purchase,
I was coming to that.
Okay.
When my DOP gave me the figure, all right, I said, listen, I want to rent equipment. I'm not buying it. He started laughing because the time passed when I produced. When you have 2 million naira, you have all the equipment you need. But now it is, in fact, even at that figure that I mentioned, it was like, oh, Organa, because now this subsidized. I said, excuse me, editing alone costs for you to use a studio, you must have at least nothing less than 10 million naira. So that is post-production.
Yeah.
To edit your film, then you have to score your music. It's expensive, but again, it's good because it's when you use all those factors of production, you're able to sell anywhere in the world. Now, coming back to the local guys, well, we're all local guys who are producing and putting the films on social media, what's it called, YouTube and the rest, all right? They may not use those high-end equipment. They may use maybe a Mark II, Mark III, whatever, but the important thing is that the films are getting, are getting viewers, all right? You will see some production and you're wondering, how did this one get up to 10,000 views? But it's those views that are counting. Mark you, Nollywood has gone everywhere. Nollywood is all over the world.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be number 2 to Hollywood, okay? But people love our story. You know, there are no other writers in the world like Nigerian writers. We are the best at it, okay? All we need, again, well, perhaps with this show, the investors out there will say, okay, Ralph, come, let's talk to you. We need the funding because, you see, there's no way you put money in any film, even if it's a YouTube production, that you lose your money. It's not possible. This is the only business you put in money and you make 150%. It's not done anywhere, not even in the oil sector anyway.
Well, I'm curious as we wind down now in about a minute, your new project.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, we know how much you've spent. We know how much work went into it. But seeing the cast, what inspired you pulling together the cast? I'm seeing, I don't want to say OGs yet again, but I'm seeing some names that have been known for a decade. Exactly.
Yes.
And then new ones as well. What
now,
made you
let me quickly tell you, by the grace of God, I think we're just very few of us who have created some of the best actors over the years who are still making names today.
Yeah.
I discovered Genevieve Nnaji. I discovered Ramsinwa. I discovered Regina Askia. I discovered Patata. I discovered Michael Cohen. I discovered NSOB. The list is, like they say, it's endless.
Will they agree that you discovered them? Because
I mentioned that this is a national, international platform.
Right.
I discovered Foluke Daramola. In fact, I went to Foluke's mother's house in Ogba to seek her permission, just like I did for Genevieve Nnaji. I went to her mother's house somewhere in Orile Agege or somewhere. I can't remember now. All right. And the mother said, hey. I said, Mama, just give her to me.
I see talent here.
Yeah. Look, I discovered it been about Februarisma. Should I start naming names?
And you still have a relationship with all of them?
They're all my brothers and sisters. They're my friends. Okay? Recently, it really touched me. A gentleman, Michael Cohen, that's his name. I discovered in one of my soaps, which is, by the way, on my YouTube channel.
So you're on YouTube too.
I just went to YouTube channel
I love that.
a few days ago, Nwadike TV. I'm on TV. I went back with my old content, okay? So what am I trying to say? Those, what's his name? Chidi Mokeme. I discovered Chidi Mokeme.
You literally discovered everybody.
I discovered everybody in Hollywood.
Come on.
So you see, I'm not boasting here. Even if you see I'm boasting in the name of the Lord. Because it's God that has given me that talent. So what I'm trying to say is this. Those new artists that are in this film, terms of engagement, are going to be the big artists of tomorrow. Because I do not discover artists who are not gifted. I go for the very best. And I mean the very best. So if you watch Terms of Engagement, you're going to be watching. In fact, before I finish, my brother, please, I need to give credence to IGP Egbetokun, all right? I need to give credence to Lieutenant General Tarid Lagbaja of the Chief of Army Staff.
So you partnered with security agencies as well?
If you call that partnership, because these guys literally they opened their bedroom doors for me.
And that's what we want to see.
All right? They gave me everything without a kobo.
All right. So we hope that Terms of Engagement will make more than the 100 million naira investment that has been made into it. And of course, your return with Thanksgiving to the morning briefing.
You see, the whole essence of spending that kind of money is because you want to see returns, good returns on investment. Well, I'll tell you, Terms of Engagement,
we must go now.
It's going to be something that's going to be that's going to engage the world, and the world will be prouder and be happier for it.
And that will be a grand comeback for
yes, ma'am. After so many years.
Producer Ralph Nwadike.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We're so glad that you're here and you're making a comeback, and we're looking forward to your success. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And that's it on the show today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Of course, we'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Kayode Okikiolu. Stay right there with us on Channels Television, because Sunrise Daily is next. There's a lot for you to discover. Have a great day. Goodbye.